Chapter 327 SS. While Wei Meidai was shocked, there was a hiss, followed by a burning smell. It turns out, during the time Wei Meidai was distracted, the pill ingredients had actually already been burned to ashes. Wei Meidai's face instantly turned ugly. She didn't expect that just one moment of distraction would lead to her failing with the first set of ingredients. She glared at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily, only to find that Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't given her a single glance. Wei Meidai raised her head. Noticing Gu Zhangyan's reprimanding gaze, she didn't dare to delay and immediately picked up the second set of herbs to start refining again. Time slowly passed by. Bailey Hongzhuang's face never changed, filled with confidence. Finally, a sweet scent floated in the air as her beautiful face broke out into a smile. The pill refinement going to be a success. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan's faces also broke out into a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was going to pass the first-grade pill master's examination for sure. Wei Meidai smelled the sweet and fragrant scent, her face becoming even more unsightly. She succeeded. Bailey Hongzhuang actually succeeded. Before she had said it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to succeed, but now she was still purifying the pill while Bailey Hongzhuang already succeeded in refining the pill. Wei Meidai's heart was in chaos. Her last trace of hope was completely obliterated. She recalled what had happened in the guild's lobby earlier. If that matter was spread out, she'd lose all her face. SS. A familiar sound echoed. Just as Wei Meidai was about to succeed in the purification, the ingredients were once more burnt to ashes. Wei Meidai's face turned ashen. From the start, she wasn't proficient in controlling the flame and adding on her chaotic heart, there was no way for her to control it well enough. Ding! Bailey Hongzhuang reached out. The pill furnace opened, a perfectly round, full pill standing in the middle. She easily picked it up and emptied it into the porcelain bottle on the table. Her movements were simple and natural. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the porcelain bottle on the table before looking at Tong Qingyuan and Huan Chuyu standing on the high platform. I'm finished refining. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's table and picked up the porcelain bottle to look inside it. One perfectly round, plump returning chi pill was placed inside it, a strong medicinal odor filling their nostrils. Huan Chuyu nodded, not hiding his satisfaction as he announced, "This returning chi pill has been refined very well, so much that it can be described as perfect." Tong Qingyuan's face was also covered with approval, indeed. In that case, does that mean I'm a first-grade pill master now? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly and asked. Of course. Tong Qingyuan replied promptly. As a second-grade pill master, he was also usually chased after by everybody. But in front of the godly Dr. Bailey Hongzhuang, he didn't have the slightest bit of arrogance. Many thanks then. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands, smiling. On the other side, ignored by everybody, Wei Meidai was awkwardly standing in her original spot. The set time still didn't arrive yet, but everybody had clearly forgotten about her existence. Should she try to refine the pill again or go home and train? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gu Zhangyan, a mocking smile playing on her lips. Needless to say, her meaning was very clear. Gu Zhangyan's face flushed before waving his sleeves and leaving. We're going. Wei Meidai wasn't sure what to do and immediately left with Gu Zhangyan when she heard his words. If they continued to stay here, they'd probably only suffer more humiliation. Chapter 328. Tong Qingyuan and Huan Chuyu didn't say anything when they saw Gu Zhangyan and Wei Meidai leave. Can I continue and take the second-grade pill master examination? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke of her idea. Since she already came, it was better to do it all now to avoid troubles later. Tong Qingyuan's face changed, even more, when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's request. In his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang at her age passing the first-grade pill master's exam was already amazing. But he hadn't expected that Bailey Hongzhuang still even wanted to take the second-grade pill master's exam as well. After seeing Gu Zhangyan lose all his face, he knew clearly that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't a person who spoke thoughtlessly. Since she said so, she definitely had the confidence to pass the exam. Until now, he had always thought that Lu Qingyue was their only genius pill master, but now she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was one too. Plus, Bailey Hongzhuang was still also very proficient in medicine. Comparing the two, Bailey Hongzhuang's talent truly could be described as monstrous. Huan Chuyu actually wasn't as shocked. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be compared to others, so whatever miraculous things that came from her was no longer as strange. Miss Bailey, you can't take the second-grade pill master examination now. Tong Qingyuan replied. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow, a hint of doubt in her clear eyes. Why? First we need to confer you the rank of a first-grade pill master and inform your status to the Pill Masters Guild. You can take the second-grade pill master's exam after you get your first-grade pill master's robe. Bailey Hongzhuang understood, so it's like that. Tong Qingyuan smiled faintly. The fastest speed would be around a week before you can take the second-grade pill master's exam. After all, not everyone's like Miss Bailey, who can do 2 examinations on the same day. His honest voice had a sigh to it. Tong Qingyuan had stayed in the Pill Masters Guild for a very long time. Directly going to the second-grade pill master's exam right after passing the first was something probably only Bailey Hongzhuang could do. Know that after other pill masters passed the first-grade exam, the number of years separating them from the second exam was innumerable. Even if it was Lu Qingyue, she also had to train a long time before passing the second-grade examination. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently, then I'll come back to take the second-grade pill master's examination later. Under Tong Qingyuan's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang left her contact information before leaving the Pill Masters Guild. After the Pill Master robes were done, the Pill Masters Guild would deliver them to Bailey Hongzhuang. As for the second-grade Pill Master's exam, she wasn't in a hurry. As long as she verified her identity as a Pill Master, nobody can doubt the authenticity of the channel-opening pills in her hand. The reason why she came to the Pill Masters Guild was so the auction of the 3 channel-opening pills could proceed smoothly without troubles. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Tong Qingyuan turned to look at Huan Chuyu. Old Huan, that Bailey girl really isn't a simple character. Huan Chuyu smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements all have the air of a master's. Her background must be remarkable. Then, should we investigate them? Huan Chuyu raised his right hand, stopping Tong Qingyuan from continuing. Whatever her background is, they aren't in conflict with us, so why do we need to investigate them? If it offends them, I'm afraid the gains do not make up for the losses. Tong Qingyuan nodded. I understand. Chapter 329. The moon was bright, only a few stars in the sky, and the wind was cool like water. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when a sudden burst of footsteps sounded outside. Almost immediately after, somebody knocked on her door. Hearing the familiar knocks, a trace of a smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Xia Jiqing knocked a few more times. Just by hearing the flurried footsteps, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew that it was her. Jiman, you came. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door and welcomed Xia Jiqing inside, a clear smile on her beautiful face. How convenient, I was just about to visit you tomorrow. Now that you came, I don't need to look for you anymore. Hearing that, Xia Jiqing was startled. You were looking for me? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her hand reached into her space pouch, a white pill in the porcelain bottle appearing in her hands. This is for you. Xia Jiqing took the white porcelain bottle, looking at the plump, full pill inside. The gears in her brain turned as Xia Jiqing's eyes turned huge. Hongzhuang, you shouldn't give. Seeing Xia Jiqing unable to even form a full coherent sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed. Don't worry, it's for you. Xia Jiqing sucked in a cold breath. When Bailey Hongzhuang had handed her the bottle, her heart already had a faint guess of what it was. But after knowing that it really was the channel-opening pill, it was still hard for her to believe. It was such an expensive pill. This is too precious, I can't take it. Xia Jiqing tried to refuse again and again. Although she had long thought of Bailey Hongzhuang as a close friend, the time they knew each other wasn't for very long. She didn't have anything, So how could she accept Bailey Hongzhuang's expensive gift? Know that ever since the auction for the 3-channel opening pills was announced, every student in the school was trying to think of every possible method to prepare for the auction. Just take it, okay? This pill is extremely useful for us right now. Xia Jiqing shook her head. I know that it's very useful, but because it's so useful, I can't take it. She sincerely thought of Hongzhuang as a friend, and so she never sought any of her riches. Bailey Hongzhuang grinned. Shaman, you're thinking too much about me. Since we're friends, you don't need to think so much. She and Xia Jiqing didn't know each other very well but had hit it off very well. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's earnest words, Xia Jiqing hesitated a little before accepting the channel opening pill. Hongzhuang, in the future, if you ever need anything from me, I definitely won't refuse. She was touched by Bailey Hongzhuang's sincerity. Xia Jiqing secretly resolved in her heart if Bailey Hongzhuang ever had a time where she needed something, she'd do everything in her power to get it. Oh right, Shaman, why did you come find me? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, her ink-black eyes having traces of a smile. Hey, I forgot something. Xia Jiqing suddenly remembered, actually I didn't come for anything really important. I just heard some really interesting news from somebody. What news? Xia Jiqing laughed mysteriously. Today I heard that a new special enrollment student was coming to Azure Water School tomorrow. You also received the notification to go tomorrow, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. After she came back from the Pill Masters Guild, she did indeed receive the notification to go, but she didn't know why. A new special enrollment student? Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Weren't me and Bai Junyu the only new special enrollment students this year? Chapter 330, that's right. We haven't heard about the existence of a third special enrollment student before. It's precisely due to this that this special enrollment student looks to be very phenomenal. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement. The status of special enrollment students at the Azure Water School were already extraordinary. The identity of this special enrollment student must be even more exceptional. A trace of doubt filled Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes. She had never heard of any news regarding this special enrollment student before. Dongfang Yu and the others had also never mentioned it. She believed that they also didn't know that a third special enrollment student existed. Thus, this third special enrollment student really was a phenomenal existence. This isn't the main point though. The main point is that I heard that this special enrollment student not only possesses excellent strength, but is also extraordinarily handsome. Xia Jiqing arched her eyebrows, eyes full of electrifying excitement. To girls her age, nothing is more appealing to them than handsome men. Seeing Xia Jiqing's excited expression, Bailey Hongzhuang had a helpless smile on her face. Sure enough, this was the point Xia Jiqing paid most attention to. This third special enrollment student hasn't arrived yet. How would you know if he's handsome? Bailey Hongzhuang teased. Xia Jiqing blinked. Within the school, there is no lack of some well-informed students. There is a slight difference between us ordinary students and you special enrollment students. To be able to become special enrollment students, you guys must have directed all your energy on cultivating. However, we ordinary students are still very concerned with gossip, especially the female students. Since you know that, then why don't you redirect all your energy towards cultivating? Bailey Hongzhuang thought it was a bit funny. Didn't you want to get into the Pill Master course quickly? Of course I want to. Xia Jiqing gave a sparkling smile. I was in the midst of cultivating when I heard my roommate talk about it. This news was so shocking, I naturally couldn't help but listen a bit longer. Right now, everyone was very curious about the identity of this special enrollment student. You already know this. Amongst the special enrollment students, female students are most concerned that Gong Shaoqing is very close with Lu Qingyue as well as you and Dongfang Yu also having an excellent relationship. Who knows how many girls' hearts were broken? Only Bai Junyu is left. Now hearing that there is another outstanding and handsome man is coming, why wouldn't everyone get excited? Bailey Hongzhuang twitched. Dongfang Yu and I are just classmates and nothing else. It was a fact that Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qingyue had an intimate relationship. However, there was nothing between her and Dong Fangyu. Of course I know that. Xia Jiqing nodded and then shrugged, but the other students don't know. Senior Dongfang has always treated others gently, is affable and easygoing, and is loved by most of the female students. Ever since you became acquainted with Senior Dongfang, everyone presumed that the two of you didn't have a shallow relationship. I've heard that many senior sisters silently shed tears in the middle of the night. Master, your sin is really too grave. Little Black said emotionally. Little White nodded, feeling the same way. If Bei Chen knew, he'd definitely be jealous. Bailey Hongshuang's lips twitched. If Xia Jiqing wasn't here, she would have definitely sent those ditch-digging fur balls flying with a slap. Tian, I'm assuming she means that they are digging a hole for themselves. It can't be that exaggerated. Bailey Hongshuang felt frustrated. It looks like I'll have to pay more attention in the future. Xia Jiqing shook her head and grabbed Bailey Hongshuang's hand, looking unusually serious. Why should that matter? Senior Dongfang is a very good person after all. If you can get together with Senior Dongfang, I would be very happy for you. It's because he's a good man that you should grasp and hold on to him tightly with your own hands. Chapter 331. Watching Xia Jiman play matchmaker, Bailey Hongshuang immediately dashed cold water on her thoughts. Stop thinking so much, I don't like Dongfang Yu how a woman likes a man. Bailey Hongshuang explained, a clear smile on her beautiful face. Seeing Bailey Honghuang's serious words, not hiding anything at all, Xia Jiman couldn't help but stare at Bailey Hongshuang. Are you really saying the truth? You really don't think about Dongfang Senior like a woman about a man? I don't, I really don't. Bailey Hongshuang said helplessly. Xia Jiman sighed, her eyes filled with hopelessness. Seriously, what a pity. Dongfang Senior would be such a good partner, but you actually don't have the slightest bit of interest. A pity, never have I met such a picky woman. Bailey Hongshuang rolled her eyes when she heard Xia Jiman's sigh of pity. What was Xia Jiman always thinking in that brain of hers? If you're ever interested in Senior Dongfang, then you must hold on tightly. Bailey Hongshuang grinned. Senior Dongfang is yours, I never thought like that. Xia Jiman immediately waved her hands. Her friend's man, she would never do that. Bailey Hongshuang smiled, her eyes shining brightly. I think you and Bai Junyu would be a pretty good match. Xia Jiman's eyes widened, that noisy guy. I'm not interested in him at all. Bailey Hongshuang smiled slightly. Xia Jiman might not be interested in him, but Bai Junyu was definitely interested in her. Snier Dongfang's so outstanding, why don't you like him? Xia Jiman's eyes narrowed, filled with doubt. Don't tell me that there's already somebody in your heart. Somebody in my heart? A golden figure couldn't help but appear in Bailey Hongshuang's mind. A tall and straight back, peerless talent. From the day they met, he had always been standing by her side, casting away everything just for a glance to make sure she was okay when he heard she was in trouble. Xia Jiman was originally just joking when she asked, but seeing Bailey Hongshuang baffled, her eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that there really was somebody already in Hongshuang's heart? Hongshuang, tell me the truth. Xia Jiman said proudly. Bailey Hongshuang smiled slightly, it'll be clear in the future. Seeing Honghuang speak so deeply, Xia Jiman also no longer asked. After all, some secrets you simply weren't supposed to peer into. The next day, the sun was bright and golden, no clouds in the sky. Bailey Hongshuang got up early. The message she had received yesterday said for her to get up early today to get introduced to the third special enrollment student. I wonder who the third special enrollment student is, and if they're really good enough. If they could let Azure Water School make an exception and accept another applicant, this third special enrollment student naturally can't be simple. But the demonic beast tide killed a lot of Azure Water School's talents, so it'd make sense to loosen the standards a little. Bailey Hongshuang slowly walked holding Baisher, hearing everyone talk about the third special enrollment student on the way. When Bailey Honghang arrived, Dong Fangyu and the others were already there waiting. They as Azure Water School's backbone had already long gotten up early to help prepare. Only Bai Junyu and Shui Haoyan didn't come due to their wounds. Bailey Honghang, you came. Dong Fangyu smiled brightly, calling out when he saw Bailey Honghang arrive. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, you guys all came really early. Chapter 332 Usually when the school has morning assembly, us special enrollment students all come a bit early. You and Bai Junyu are new and do not have to do so. Lu Qingyue walked up to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, eyes slightly gleaming. Hongzhuang, I heard that you passed the rank 1 pill master exam yesterday. Lu Qingyue was Huan Chuyo's disciple. To know of this so soon, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't feel surprised and immediately nodded in admission. Your speed is really quick. Lu Qingyue chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips parted in a smile. 5 days later, I have to auction off the channel opening pill. Taking the exam earlier was to not give people any basis for attack. Have you heard? There's supposed to be a third special enrollment student coming to the school today. An expression of curiosity appeared on Lu Qinyue's delicate and daintily beautiful face. This is the first in the history of the Azure Water School. Presumably, this new student shouldn't have a simple background. Dong Fangyu arched his eyebrows, elegantly charming seductive eyes were suffused with enchanting smile. Bailey Hongzhuang gave a shallow smile, her face was non-committal. No matter how special of a background the other has, it was of no relation to her. Just when everyone was conversing with one another, the principal and vice principal slowly walked over. Good morning, principal, vice principal. Seeing the principal and vice principal, all the students greeted them one after the other. The two walked up the high platform together and looked down at the many students gathered below. Both of them showed a kind and satisfying smile on their faces. The reason we've gathered all of you here today is to introduce a special enrollment student to everyone. Principal Ren Tianxiong said, getting straight to the point. As a cultivator, he had never liked formalities and instead held to being straightforward as cultivators are. Once these words were said, a curious gaze shone in the eyes of all the students present. It looks like the rumors they heard were indeed not false. They only did not know who this third special enrollment student is. To not only be able to get the Azure Water School to make an exception, but also evoke a ceremonious introduction from the principal and vice principal was definitely not the kind of treatment an ordinary person would get. Following the end of Ren Tianxiong's words, a man slowly walked up the platform. The man was dressed in pale golden robes, statue tall and straight, numerous inky black strands held up by a white suet jade hairpiece. His peerlessly handsome face looked as if it were carved, long eyebrows extending into his hair, narrow eyes deep and profound. He stood with a graceful and elegantly wind-like demeanor. Shining gold rays of sunshine splashed on his tall and straight figure, as if he was like a god, boundlessly elegant. The audience below stared at the special enrollment student on the platform, inadvertently exclaiming at the same time. Heavens! The rumors were really true. This new special enrollment student is really a rarely seen beauty. It's the first time I've ever seen someone born with such good looks. I'm drunk. He is nothing short of my dream lover. The females in the crowd all went crazy. In their minds, Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu have always been their ideal lovers. However, Gong Shaoqing was very close with Lu Qinyue. Also, Dong Fangyu and Bailey Hongzhuang's relationship wasn't shallow. It didn't seem like there was any hope for them. Then the third special enrollment appeared now and he was above Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu. Different from Gong Shaoqing's cold demeanor and Dong Fangyu's gentleness, this third special enrollment student was above due to his dignified and noble manner. It was as if he was a born aristocrat, every gesture was enough to exude an inherent nobility, intoxicating everyone around him. Surprise emerged in the eyes of Dong Fangyu, Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue. This special enrollment student's degree of excellence was beyond their expectations. Chapter 333 Some people, even when they say nothing, do nothing and just sit there quietly, you'd still be able to feel their remarkable presence. This special enrollment student just stood on the high platform, and a naturally grand and imposing manner had slowly started to flow out, causing the audience to not dare underestimate him. Even the knowledgeable and experienced Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu felt a bit of shock in their hearts. As they are similarly talented people, this feeling was even more obvious. This special enrollment student was definitely not simple. Below, Shen Yuanhuan stared hard at the figure standing on top of the platform, eyes full of disbelief. Impossible, this was impossible. Shen Yuanhuan endlessly shouted in his heart. This was definitely not real. Wasn't he crypt? Sitting in a wheelchair for so many years, how is he able to stand up now? All these years, Bewitching had been the object of his oppression and scathing remarks, mud that he ferociously trampled upon. Now, that mud actually had such a peerlessly elegant appearance. This was akin to a victory over him. How could there be a day he'd be able to stand up? Xiao Zifan stared blankly up at Bewitching. Bewitching was always been very famous within the imperial city. Possessing a perfect and handsome face, it was a pity that Chen Wangye was a cripple. He had seen him before. However, before his eyes was an elegant sun radiating the air of noble around him, not a bit of the dejected attitude of a cripple could be found. Xiao Zifan couldn't help but turn his thoughts to Bailey Hongzhuang, who was ridiculed by everyone all these years. Didn't she also wash away all the shame under everyone's astonished gazes, becoming a first-rate genius? His mind slowly filled with the past rumors in the imperial city, a blind with a cripple, a match made in heaven. Looking back at it now, Chen Wangye and Bailey Hongzhuang really were a match made in heaven. However, it can be said now that they are a perfect match made in heaven. Gazing at that figure in pale gold, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes were as quiet as a deep well and held a bit of turmoil, showing shock and surprise, and even a bit of pleasant surprise. Bewitching had always told her that after he finishes dealing with his business, he'd come to look for her. Only, she didn't think that Bewitching would unexpectedly use this kind of method to appear before her. Azure Water School's special enrollment student? It couldn't be that. He wants to stay at the Azure Water School and cultivate, right? Bewitching came. Yeah, he really gets people excited. He definitely wasn't assured about letting Master stay here by herself. Little Black and Little White excitedly bounced around. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that two round balls were rolling around on the top of her head. Her lips involuntarily twitched a bit. Did these two still have the sense that they were supposed to be pearl ornaments? If the people next to her saw the pearls on her head rolling around, wouldn't that give them a shock? Fortunately, everyone's attention was still focused on Bewitching and no one noticed this point. I am Bewitching and I am much honored to be a part of the Azure Water School. With a magnetic voice that was deep and mellow, handsome eyebrows that held a clear smile, Bewitching did not conceal the gaze that was staring directly into the crowd at Bailey Hongzhuang. The white dress upon her body was tranquil and beautiful. Standing amongst the crowd, she still shone like a star. It was as if she was a luminous night pearl, dazzling and captivating. Noticing Bewitching's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly curved, eyes glowing with a dazzling smile. Bewitching similarly curved his lips into a smile, handsome and extraordinary. Both staring at each other with a smile, no words were necessary for them to understand each other. Chapter 334. I'm sure everyone already knows about the demonic beast tide that happened on Luoyun Mountain. Many of Azure Water School's students have died due to that. Ren Tianxiong's face was heavy. Usually when students left for practical training, they would go to Luoyun Mountain. Nobody expected this rare, once-in-a-100-year demonic beast tide to happen. This was the first time in history Azure Water School had so many student casualties. His mood was very dark. In the audience, the students all nodded. They knew clearly that the situation was very serious. The students they've studied and cultivated alongside died just like that, no longer able to return. All of the students were emotional. After I and the vice principal talked it over, we've decided to make an exception and accept one more special enrollment student, and now we're telling this to everyone. Ren Tianxiong spoke slowly. This was the only solution to Azure Water School's current situation. All of the students revealed expressions of understanding. Azure Water School had always upheld incredibly strict standards, so there was never a lot of students. After the demonic beast tide, there were even less students. Under such a situation, it was already good being able to get one more student. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu only made the decision after several days of consultation. Although taking in another student now was a bit different from normal, it still adhered to their strict standards and filled an important gap. The light in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes was complicated. The principal and vice principal really had thought a lot about this. Gong Xiaoqing, Dibei Chen's room will be given to you to arrange. Huan Chuyu looked at Gong Xiaoqing. Gong Xiaoqing nodded his head, I understand. Huan Chuyu nodded slightly before turning to Dong Fangyu, you should bring Dibei Chen around to let him familiarize himself here. Don't worry, Vice Principal. Ren Tianxiong talked a little bit more before leaving with Huan Chuyu. When the two left, the originally quiet field suddenly became incredibly lively. The females all stared at Dibei Chen, they were too curious. Gong Xiaoqing was already taken and they had no hope to be with Dong Fangyu. They must hold on to the new student, Dibei Chen. There were no lack of brave women in the crowd filled with hope towards the tall, handsome Dibei Chen. Dibei Chen, do you have a girlfriend? Crash! Hearing this, everybody fell into an uproar, roars of laughter appearing in the crowd. With so many women in the crowd, there was no way to know who did it. Xia Jiman's face was startled, I never thought our Azure Water School's women were so bold. But this Dibei Chen really is, as I heard, his looks don't lose to Dong Fangyu or Gong Xiaoqing at all. Xia Jiman's excited face rested on Bailey Honghang's shoulder, don't you think so? Bailey Honghang smiled lightly and didn't deny it. Dibei Chen was always outstanding, even more outstanding than outstanding in a normal person's eyes. Dong Fangyu and Gong Xiaoqing also stared at Dibei Chen interestedly. As fellow men, it was especially obvious to them that Dibei Chen was truly an outstanding male. So, they were very curious about Dibei Chen's reply. Chapter 335. A bit of curiosity was also seen in Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes. She had always thought that Brother Gong had been outstanding enough. However, with one glance at Dibei Chen, she felt that he was uniquely different. It was as if he was beyond the bounds of the earthly world. To sum it up, perfect. This was the result of the combination of nobility and godliness. Lu Qinyue didn't know his true strength, but from the confident smile on Dibei Chen's face, it was not difficult to guess. He was definitely not weak. Hongzhuang, do you think that Dibei Chen has a sweetheart? Xia Jiqing didn't even attempt to hide the curiosity in her heart, turned her head towards Bailey Hongzhuang and asked. Just as everyone looked at Dibei Chen with curiosity, interested in how he would answer, Dibei Chen's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. His elegantly thin pink lips curved into an evil smile, Dibei Chen's gaze held a bit of craftiness. Looking at Dibei Chen's smile, Bailey Hongzhuang instinctively felt this turn of events wasn't at all good. Perhaps. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was preparing to sneak off quietly, Dibei Chen's voice suddenly rang out. My apologies, but I already have a wife. Once these words left his mouth, the place once again rose to a clamor. The words boggling everyone's minds. Although there was no lack of cultivators who already had a wife here, outstanding men like Dibei Chen usually married a bit later. Moreover, to be able to get Dibei Chen to admit it so readily, it's probable that Dibei Chen is completely satisfied with this wife. Dong Fangyu's expressively seductive eyes had a hint of a smile, this new special enrollment student is really frank, huh? Saying this, Dong Fangyu's eyes involuntarily looked towards Gong Xiaoqing and the others. When he caught sight of the slightly strange expression on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, a frown creased his forehead. Bailey Hongzhuang, what's the matter? Lu Qinyue and Xia Jiqing heard the question and also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, hesitantly asking, Hongzhuang, this is? It was when Gong Xiaoqing noticed the way Dibei Chen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang that he had a faint premonition. Apparently. Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang knew each other? Bei Chen's answer undoubtedly hurt many girls who were full of anticipation. Such a handsome and extraordinary man was hard to come by at the Azure Water School. Unexpectedly, he was already married. Isn't this cutting off all their desires? It was unsure if it was because Bei Chen was too outstanding or if this female student was deliberately joking. A voice once again rang out. Then, do you have any intention of taking another wife? As these words faded, the loud noise rose from the audience. Even the male students held the attitude of waiting for a good show to unfold. In the Xinjiang continent, polygamy was a normal thing, even more so with outstanding men. Having a few pretty wives following by his side was a very normal thing. However, Bei Chen had only just arrived at the Azure Water School. No one had the slightest understanding of Bei Chen, and yet there were already women who want to be intimate with him. It really made people endlessly sigh. Bei Chen's lips curved into an unrestrained evil but elegant smile. Without saying a word, he walked off the platform and slowly walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. As for that, it would depend on if wifey allows it or not. Immediately after and in front of everyone's shocked gazes, Bei Chen came up to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and embraced her shoulders with one hand. Bei Chen's smile was warm, pure and elegant. It was like cherry blossoms in spring, soft and intoxicating. Wifey, is what I said correct? Bei Chen's words were like a bomb exploding in the blink of an eye. All the students present stood still, mouths open in shock, staring at Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang uncomprehendingly, wondering if they had just heard wrongly. Chapter 336. Xia Jiqing stared blankly at Bei Chen, who stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Just a while ago she had even humorously made a bet with Bailey Hongzhuang, saying that Bei Chen didn't have a wife. Never would she have thought that the wife Bei Chen just mentioned was Bailey Hongzhuang. The situation changed so quickly that she couldn't follow it. Lu Qingyue was stunned and stared at them in astonishment. This was truly unexpected. Neither Dongfang Yu or Gong Shaoking's expressions were any better. Before Bei Chen had said anything about it, they would have never associated Bailey Hongzhuang with Bei Chen. Dongfang Yu was dumbfounded. He had previously inquired a lot of information about Bailey Hongzhuang, but hadn't heard anything about her being married. Everyone's attention was all on Bailey Hongzhuang. To find out whether or not this was true, they would have to hear Bailey Hongzhuang's answer. Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly gazed at the bright attractive face in front of her. From the moment this guy appeared, she knew something like this would happen. Explain? There wasn't an explanation in the first place. Deny it? This was the truth, so how could she deny it? Since there was no other way, she could only acknowledge it. What do you think? A flicker of slyness flashed by Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes. If you are willing, then I don't have a problem with it. Although Bei Chen threw the question to her, she wasn't willing to become the fiend who broke the hearts of many young women, therefore why not just throw the question back at him? When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang neither disagree or agree, the onlookers couldn't ignore the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang was Bei Chen's wife. The discovery crushed all of the ladies in the academy. Before, Dongfang Yu had been everyone's male idol, but who would have known that when Bailey Hongzhuang joined the academy, she would be so close with Dongfang Yu, breaking the hearts of everyone. Finally a new male idol appeared, moreover this was only his first day, yet he was already Bailey Hongzhuang's husband. Those who struck first prevailed, while those who struck late suffered. But wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's striking speed a bit too fast? Couldn't she let us live? Couldn't she let us reminiscence our male idol? At this moment, not only were all the female students heartbroken, the male students who admired Bailey Hongzhuang were also distressed. Bailey Hongzhuang was their new female idol. Who would have known that Bailey Hongzhuang had already been caught by Bei Chen's evil claws? Now they didn't have any chance left. How was he the academy's special enrollment student? He clearly came to the academy to look for his wife. Noticing the twinkle of cunningness that lashed by Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Bei Chen's eyes, dark as black jade, filled with indulgence and yearning. When he first saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she had the same slyness as she reached out her hand, asking for 100 gold coins as reward. And now looking at her, still as cunning and adorable as before, standing in front of him, there was an unexplainable feeling in his heart. Fortunately, she was safe and sound. If wifey says it like that, this husband will be sad, smiled Bewitching devilishly. You are the only one in my heart, no one else can replace you, nor enter my heart. The onlookers watched as Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching extravagantly showed their affection. The whole square was filled with the sound of shattering hearts. Must they go so far as to publicly flirt with each other? This proclamation of love was basically cutting of any hope they had, completely exterminating the fantasy in their hearts. Chapter 337, Sad Dongfang Yu. LOL. I had to translate the title, tongue sticking out. Xia Jiqing looked at Bewitching's face filled with deep, doting love and finally understood why Bailey Honghang never liked Dongfang Yu romantically. Because, there was already an even better man in her life. Although she didn't know anything about Bewitching or his circumstances, right now she truly felt as if Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang was a match made in heaven. Bewitching's appearance was bright and handsome, filled with confidence, while Bailey Honghang was stunningly gorgeous, her beauty almost unreal. The golden and the white figure interweaved together brought forth an unspeakable sense of harmony. She believed that with how amazing Honghang was, her husband absolutely couldn't be a nobody. This new special enrollment student definitely must be extraordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang felt uncomfortable as she listened to Bewitching's corny words. This guy really paid no attention to their location before he spoke. Dongfang Yu stared at the perfectly matched couple, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang beside him. Nobody knew when the smile in his seductive eyes sorrowfully faded away. The gentle smile in his face had disappeared, replaced by a deep sadness. It was as if the warm and sunny day suddenly turned rainy. There wasn't the slightest bit of sun left, only gloom and sadness left behind. Dongfang Yu didn't know why, but the two seemed to be a bit unpleasant to the eyes, making his heart feel a bit stifled. Dong Xiaoqing's iceberg face was impassive as always, but a subtle wave appeared in his calm eyes when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang confirm their relationship. The sudden series of events had far exceeded his expectations. It was a development that nobody expected. Lu Qinyue's lips stretched into a big grin, but before anyone noticed, her face had already relaxed into a slight, joyful smile. Bewitching, since you're a new special enrollment student, how about I arrange your room next to Bailey Hongzhuang's? Dongfang Yu quickly concealed his sadness, a gentle smile appearing on his face like nothing happened. As special enrollment students in the same year, Bewitching was supposed to live together on the same floor as Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Junyu. Although Dongfang Yu hid his emotions very quickly, Bewitching still managed to catch it. He nodded his head slightly, then thank you very much. It seemed like his Wangfei's charm really wasn't small, even attracting Dongfang Yu, who never loved anyone. As the early meeting finished, the Azure Water School students slowly left. Before they came, their hearts were filled with anticipation. After they left, they were completely heartbroken. Now that they no longer had any hope, continuing to stay was meaningless. Xiao Zifan slowly walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, since he knew them and Bewitching was here, he should greet them. Chen Wangye. Xiao Zifan cupped his hands in greeting. I didn't expect that you'd also come to Azure Water School. Before, although he heard about Bewitching, they've never actually met. He knew that the Chen Wangye now was very different from the previous Chen Wangye. Now he could stand up, and was no longer the Chen Wangye that everyone could bully. Besides, Azure Water School wouldn't choose incompetent people. Bewitching had managed to become a special enrollment student of Azure Water School. That in itself was enough to prove his strength was outstanding. Thinking up to there, Xiao Zifan's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. He wondered, what faces would the people in the Imperial City make when they saw what statuses Bailey Honghang and Bewitching had now? Chapter 338. Bewitching's gaze fell on Xiao Zifan's body. From He Mu's mouth, he had already understood how Xiao Zifan and Hongzhuang became acquainted. Towards the matter of Zifan standing with Bailey Hongzhuang against the pack of hell wolves, Bewitching was very appreciative and satisfied. Bei Chen's thin lips raised slightly. Hongzhuang is here. Naturally, I have to come here as well. Xiao Zifen gave a slight smile. He had heard early on that Chen Wangye and Chen Wangfei's relationship was good. Seeing it today, it truly lived up to the rumors. Standing not far from Xiao Zifen and Bei Chen, Shenyuan Huan looked at them as they conversed. His heart still had not calmed down from the shock he felt before. How did this Bei Chen resemble the one cripple that he had originally bullied? In those 3 years, Bei Chen had never stood up before. How could he suddenly stand up now? Could it be that? When Bei Chen suddenly left, it was to heal his leg injury. Shenyuan Huan's mind flashed through a myriad of possibilities, feeling that it was harder and harder to believe. It seems that he had to quickly pass this news back home. He may as well confirm it. Dongfang Yu and the others heard Xiao Zifen's address towards Bei Chen, surprise slowly entering their eyes once again. Chen Wangye. Xia Jiqing's eyes were opened wide in shock. Bei Chen is a Wangye. Xiao Zifen nodded, that's right. He is Chen Wangye. Even though you would consider yourself to be a student after arriving at the Azure Water School, Wangye and Wangfei were still very distinguished identities. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved. Towards this identity, she did not care about it too much. She was a lady of the general's household for 15 years, was that identity not distinguished enough? In fact, she had survived under the spite and trampling of others for 15 years. It is precisely for this reason that towards this identity, she had never cared at all. Bei Chen similarly didn't know how to deny it. Towards this identity of Wangye, he had never thought of it as glorious. Rather, it was humiliating. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang and Bei Chen having an indifferent, even disdainful, attitude towards this, it made them appear even higher in everyone's eyes. To hide such an obviously distinguishing identity for so long, it could be seen that their dispositions were extraordinary. Dongfang Yu felt tumultuous emotions rolling around like a stormy sea in his heart. Before, when he had looked into Bailey Hongzhuang's situation in the general's household, he had not inquired about what happened after she left. It turns out that the Bailey Hongzhuang of today was not the young lady of the general's household anymore, but was Fengbo country's Chen Wangfei. Bailey Hongzhuang, Bei Chen had just arrived at the Azure Water School. I'll leave it to you to show him around. We'll return first. Dongfang Yu had a gentle gaze, lips holding an intoxicatingly seductive smile, not letting others see any trace of his inner thoughts. Listening to this, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped for a moment to consider Dongfang Yu's words and then nodded, very well. Even if she went back now, Bei Chen would still come looking for her. Just as well, she also had a few matters to talk about with Bei Chen. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's candid reply, Dongfang Yu felt a block form in his heart. It caused him to immediately find an excuse to leave. Gong Xiaoqing watched Dongfang Yu's retreating figure and also turned to look at the completely unaware Bailey Hongzhuang, showing a complicated expression on his face. He had been Dongfang Yu's friend for many years, how could he not know what the latter was thinking in his heart? Brother Gong, thinking of it, Hongzhuang and Bei Chen haven't seen each other for a long time. They must have a lot they want to talk to each other about. Shouldn't we leave first? Lu Qinyue's charming and delicate face held a light warm gentle smile, her voice containing an even more light-hearted smile. Gong Xiaoqing nodded silently, then we shall leave first. Chapter 339 Hongzhuang, Xiao Zifen and I are going now, hee. Xia Jiqing winked excitedly at Bailey Hongzhuang. A short separation breeds new love, them staying here would only be a hindrance. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed everyone's ambiguous eyes but didn't say anything. She knew that right now, even if she tried to explain, nobody would believe it. So, it was better not to explain at all, or else everybody might misunderstand. Seeing everyone wink as they left cleanly, Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless as she turned to face Bei Chen. Is your business finished? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. From what she understood, since Bei Chen wasted 3 years in Fengbo country, there should have definitely been a terribly difficult, big mess for him to deal with. But Bei Chen didn't take long at all. Was all his business really completed? If it really was, his efficiency was truly something. If I didn't come back, I'm afraid wifey would have ran away with somebody else. Bewitching grinned, his low and magnetic voice filled with charm as he said teasingly. But, his dark and beautiful eyes had a trace of hard-to-describe seriousness. Bailey Honghang was struck dumb. This guy was truly shameless enough to say everything. Such a normal sentence, but why does it sound like the red apricot tree leaning over the garden wall? Idiom, a cheating wife xd. Little black and little white glanced at each other. As expected of Bewitching, hee. Baisher in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms also popped his head out to glance at Bewitching. This was only the second time he had seen Bewitching, the first was when he was just born. But thinking of that now. It was too embarrassing. Baisher lowered his head, snuggling back into Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. It was a very shy animal. Nonsense. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately refuted. She knew that the two fluff balls on top of her head were definitely laughing at her. Bewitching's eyes brightened as he listened to Bailey Honghang, his grin growing wider and wider. So you mean that even if I'm not by wifey's side, wifey will still care about me? Bailey Hongzhuang was once again stumped for words, glaring at that evildoer's face furiously. It was a pit. It was a huge pit. Bewitching had really calculated it well. No matter how she answered, she'd still fall for his trick. You think too much. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed, a cold light beginning to appear in her eyes. Bewitching was completely unaware, the smile on his face only growing even more brilliant as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang tenderly. He tightened embraced her with his hand. Today is truly a good day. Your husband feels very happy to see wifey again. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Bewitching's hand on her shoulder and couldn't help but ask, your hand, can you let go? Bewitching raised an eyebrow. At first he didn't want to release her, but then seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's cold face, he quietly let go. Whatever wifey says, your husband will naturally obey. Bailey Honghang frowned lightly, aren't you getting a bit too into the play? I'm not actually your wife. Hearing Bailey Honghang words, the smile on Bewitching's face faded somewhat, a trace of seriousness appearing in his eyes. You don't want to be my wife? Bewitching's beautiful eyes were filled with remorse as if he was thinking about how Bailey Hongzhuang was unhappy when he called her his wife. Chapter 340. But, just as Bailey Hongzhuang thought that Bewitching finally understood, his voice suddenly rang out again. Then, Ben Wang will call you Wang Fei. I'm not your wife, and I'm definitely not your Wang Fei. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. In the end, did this guy clearly understand their relationship or not? Or was he deliberately confusing it? Okay, whatever you say is right. Bewitching immediately replied, then I'll call you Zhuanger, or Little Darling. Which name do you want me to call you by? Bewitching smiled widely, a splendid, bright smile on his evilly bewitching face. He looked like a star, blinding the eyes of others. But in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, it amounted to nothing. Really? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a charming smile, you'll call me by whatever name I like. Of course. Bewitching winked, his eyes shining with sincerity, but if I just call you Bailey Hongzhuang or the like, then we wouldn't be able to prove our intimate relationship. Bailey Hongzhuang was defeated. She simply had no way to talk it over with this guy. After all, in terms of shamelessness, she wasn't a match for him at all. After Dong Fengyu returned to his room, Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qingyue went to find him. Dong Feng, when you investigated Bailey Hongzhuang, how did you never find out that she was the Chen Wangfei? Gong Shaoqing asked. What had happened today had truly been unexpected. Dong Fengyu sighed slightly. Before I had only asked around for information while she was still in the general's household, not after she left. He remembered that the person before seemed to still have something to say to him, but somebody to come find him before he could speak and left. So it's like that. Gong Shaoqing's emotions were complicated. I've always heard that Feng Bo country's Chen Wangye was only a cripple with peerless looks, but now I see that he was actually a hidden dragon. Lu Qingyue was startled. Dibei Chen was actually Feng Bo country's crippled Wang Ye. Feng Bo country's crippled Wang Ye was very well known, but she had only known about the crippled Wang Ye, and not that Chen Wang Ye was actually Dibei Chen. Saying it that way, Hongzhuang and Dibei Chen really are a mystical couple. Lu Qingyue's eyes were filled with admiration. Before marriage, their situations were very much alike, and after marriage, they seemed like completely different people. Looking at the current Honghang and Dibei Chen, whoever saw them would have no way of connecting them to the previous general household's young miss and the crippled Wang Ye. Dong Fangyu and Gong Xiaoqing's faces were also a bit odd. The sudden reversal was really a tad strange. Bailey Honghang's transformation was already incredible, but with Dibei Chen's change as well, it was truly shocking. Suddenly, Gong Xiaoqing's eyes lit up. Bailey Hongzhuang is also a doctor, so couldn't she have cured Dibei Chen's legs? Hearing this, Dong Fangyu and Lu Qingyue's eyes also brightened. From Bailey Honghang's treatment of Cui Haoyan, it was obvious that her techniques were truly amazing. She was able to cure the toxin that even the vice principal was helpless against. So if Bailey Hongzhuang cured Dibei Chen's legs, then it really wasn't too shocking. Chapter 341, perhaps. It really is like that. Dong Fangyu's eyes twinkled thoughtfully as he lowered his head. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly an unusual woman. Not only did she change, but so did the man around her. That Dibei Chen isn't a simple character either. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes were deep and distant. Before I heard that not only was Feng Bo country's Wang Ye a cripple, he was even bullied by everyone. But after his leg injury was healed, he also became very strongly. Clearly, he had been cultivating for a long time. It definitely wasn't an overnight thing. At the very least, his cultivation level is something that even I cannot read. His deep, magnetic voice was filled with complex emotions. Gong Xiaoqing's face was grave, not a single emotion visible on his face. Dong Fangyu nodded, feeling the same. Right, his strength is truly profound. Hearing Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu's words, Lu Qingyue's eyes widened with shock. Not even you two could measure his cultivation. As everybody knew, if the difference in strength was too big, weaker cultivators wouldn't be able to know a stronger cultivator's strength. If even Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fangyu couldn't see his strength, it was obvious that Dibei Chen's power was beyond ordinary. Even if Dibei Chen was a year older than them, such a huge gap in strength was still astonishing. It seems like that Dibei Chen didn't come to Azure Water School to train, but to stay with Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing's cold voice was certain. Only a little bit of thinking was needed to understand everything. This Chen Wang Ye cannot be a simple person, but for him, Bailey Hongzhuang is very important. Dong Fangyu's seductive eyes blushed faintly as they shone with intelligence, but his heart quietly burned with pain. For a person as strong as Dibei Chen, staying at Azure Water School would only be a waste of time. Yet, he had rushed over specially for Bailey Hongzhuang. From this, it was obvious how important she was in Dibei Chen's heart. Whether it was appearance or strength, Dibei Chen was unbeatable. Together with his sincerity towards Bailey Honghang, they truly were a couple worthy of envy. Billows appeared in Lu Qingyue's eyes. The shock was too great. Bailey Hongzhuang was once called trash by everybody, but in her eyes, Bailey Honghang was not only strong, a medicinal expert, she was even a rarely seen pill-refining genius. Such a perfect woman with so many talents, yet she had to live under humiliation for 15 years. It was truly hard to believe. Could it be that all the people in Feng Bo country's imperial city were all idiots? Otherwise, how could they trample on a treasured, heaven-sent genius like trash? Watching Lu Qingyue's face continuously changing, Gong Xiaoqing spoke. No matter who Bailey Hongzhuang is, she's still our friend. Hearing that, Lu Qingyue's thoughts changed. Big Brother Gong. He was protecting Hongzhuang. Big Brother Gong, who had normally never concerned himself with worldly affairs, was now suddenly speaking so much, trying to prevent rumors so Bailey Honghang won't be affected. Dongfang Yu also nodded. Right, we only need to know Hongzhuang's our friend, and that's enough. Bailey Hongzhuang led Dibei Chen on a loop around Azure Water School before finally bringing him to the special enrollment students' dormitory. Seeing how the nameplate next door was already engraved with Dibei Chen's name, Bailey Honghang couldn't help but sigh. Azure Water School's efficiency was truly something. This is your room. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at the door. Chapter 342. Dibei Chen's eyes fell on the door besides Bailey Hongzhuang and asked teasingly, "Wifey, aren't you going to invite me in to sit?" The new student dormitory also had the same layout. If you want to sit, then just go and sit in your own room. The corners of Dibei Chen's lips turned slightly upward, revealing a teasing smile. Wifey's house will always be different. That night I came too hurriedly and couldn't see the details too well. I'm afraid that I have to think about it carefully. Following Dibei Chen's words, a red blush spread across Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Naturally, she understood what Dibei Chen was talking about. If she wasn't completely off her guard, how could she have let Dibei Chen take advantage of her? The shame of it. Click. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door to her room. Come in then. The smile on Dibei Chen's lips widened a bit, walking step by step into Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Even though his wifey was completely capable of standing on her own two legs, towards these kinds of matters she is still quite shy. It really makes his heart go soft. Are you really preparing to cultivate at the Azure Water School? Bailey Hongzhuang's elegantly refined visage held a trace of puzzlement, looking with a bit of incomprehension towards Dibei Chen. Though the Azure Water School was the most ideal cultivation grounds in many cultivators' hearts, it was only the case for lower-grade practitioners. The black and white fluff balls had already told her before that Dibei Chen was very strong. To be able to be called very strong by the two fluff balls, Dibei Chen must really be very powerful. Therefore, the Azure Water School wouldn't help Dibei Chen much. Dibei Chen's lips curved into a devilish smile, intimate and warm. Where wifey goes, hubby will naturally follow. Bailey Hongzhuang shot a glance at Dibei Chen. This guy being so intimate, he simply has no manners to speak of. Shut your chatter. I'm asking you a serious question. Bailey Hongzhuang composed herself and said, inky black jade-like eyes holding a bit of helplessness. Dibei gave a beautiful smile. What I said was also serious. Bailey Hongzhuang was momentarily speechless. Then just as she was prepared to reply, Bailey Hongzhuang caught sight of the deep seriousness in Dibei Chen's eyes. A light immediately flashed across her eyes. He was serious. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't understand. Why would he stay with her at the Azure Water School? With Dibei Chen's background, he could be called a proud son of heaven. To completely cure the cursed physique would require many medical herbs. She had already listed all the medical herbs needed to help Dibei Chen. Dibei Chen could in fact gather all the medical herbs before he had to find her. Staying at the Azure Water School and cultivating instead, wasn't this just wasting time? If it's because of your body, you can gather the need medical herbs and then come back to find me. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Dibei Chen gazed into Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, a complication look crossed the black pupils. To me, you aren't a doctor. Not waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Dibei Chen continued. No matter where I cultivate, it would still be the same. You don't have to worry about me. Bailey Hongzhuang sank into silence. Having already spoken up to these points, it really wasn't easy to explain. It felt as if there was an unspeakable intimacy in the relationship between the two. All right, you can come in now. Suddenly, Dibei Chen turned towards the door and shouted. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows furrowed in confusion, not knowing what Dibei Chen meant. Could it be that there was still someone else? Following his words, the door was opened. Dressed in a robe of black, He Mu walked in. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he greeted, Miss Bailey. He Mu. A trace of a smile showed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Speaking of which, no matter if it was Dibei Chen or He Mu, she had not seen either for some time. Chapter 343. Seeing the two again after such a long time, her heart was filled with happiness. She just didn't express it in front of Bewitching. Bewitching's deep eyes was filled with shock as he watched Bailey Hongzhuang look at Mu with happiness and pleasant surprise. Wasn't she a bit too enthusiastic? Is it possible that Mu was the kind his wifey liked? Miss Bailey. Mu's face was filled with remorse. Before Chen Wangye left, he told me to keep you safe. But I didn't expect a demonic beast tied and failed to protect you, putting you into serious danger. Mu. Mu really feels ashamed to face Miss Bailey and Wangye. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Earlier, because of the two fluffballs, she knew somebody had been following her. Originally she had waited out to see who was following her. But after, she realized that the person was only following her like a shadow without doing any harmful actions. So, she never thought that person following her would be revealed, and even more unexpectedly, for that person to be Mu. No wonder Bewitching came so soon after the demonic beast tide. She had already thought that it was impossible for Bewitching to get news about the demonic beast tide so quickly. So actually, it was because Mu reported it to him. An excited smile appeared on Little Black's face. Bewitching definitely likes Master, otherwise, why would he call Mu to protect her? Mu is Bewitching's personal servant. Ah. I also think so. Why else would Bewitching be at such a rush to come back? Little White nodded in agreement. Hundreds of thoughts swirled in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind as she listened to Little Black and Little White's conversation. She could naturally understand why Bewitching left Mu to follow her. The importance Bewitching attached to her was obvious, but that demonic beast tide was too sudden, so it's understandable. You don't need to take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang consoled him. Everything was too unexpected, it wasn't something a single person's power could change. She completely understood how Mu was too late to save her. Never mind Mu, wasn't she herself also helpless in the critical moment? Mu managing to survive the demonic beast tide was already rather difficult. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu only felt even more guilty. He had failed the young master's mission, yet Miss Bailey was still so considerate. He was ashamed. Miss Bailey, I promise you that I won't ever let you be in such danger ever again. Mu's face was serious. Such a mistake once was enough. If there was a second time, even without the young master saying anything, he himself could just go die. Bewitching narrowed his eyes as he watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu talk. Why did it so strange when Mu solemnly vowed to never let Bailey Hongzhuang fall into danger? It seems that later he needs to choose a new person to protect Bailey Hongzhuang. He could not leave a single threat behind. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Mu, don't mind it too much and just protect Bewitching. Bewitching waved his hand. Mu, since wife's already forgiven you, you can go now. Mu nodded his head as he turned around to leave. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Bewitching, her clear eyes a bit emotional as she spoke. Thank you. Suddenly being thanked, Bewitching was a bit startled before a bright smile appeared on his face. Taking good care of you is my responsibility. Chapter 344. Bewitching's gaze landed on Baisher, who was snuggling in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. Is this the demonic beast you got from the royal hunting feast? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded softly. Right, this is him. I named him Baisher, White Lion. Baisher. Nice name. Bewitching rubbed Baisher's head. This little guy's quite cute. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Baisher's head. Since Bewitching came back, his head has always been buried in her sleeves so you could only see its fluffy white fur, and couldn't see him. By Bailey Hongzhuang's touch, Baisher raised his head to look at Bewitching. When Bewitching saw Baisher's face, his extraordinarily handsome face turned shocked. He touched the king character on Baisher's head, the astonishment in his eyes slowly calming down. This is actually the Beast King. Seeing how both Bewitching and Mo Yunju said that Baisher was the Beast King, Bailey Hongzhuang was even more certain of Baisher's identity. You know the Beast King? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I don't know anything about this Beast King, can you explain it to me? Bei Chen nodded his head, of course. Listening to Bei Chen's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly understood what the Beast King status meant. The Beast King actually only appeared a few hundred years ago, which explained why she didn't know anything about it in her past life. Hundreds of years ago, a great change had happened in the demonic beast forests. Many species of demonic beasts had gone extinct, along with the creation of many new ones. The Beast Kings were one of the most powerful and special of those newly created species. All demonic beasts would bow down to Beast King. All demonic beasts would listen to the Beast King. And the most special thing was that there was only one Beast King in their entire species. Only after the old one died could a new one be born. As such, the Beast King was known to be an extremely frightening existence. Normally speaking, it was impossible for the Beast King to become a contract beast, yet it just so happened to become Bailey Hongzhuang's. It was truly unimaginable. The royal family's actually so generous. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow. The royal family themselves probably didn't even know what demonic beast was under the seal, right? Bei Chen nodded his head. Who knows how many people would come rushing like ducks if they'd known that they could get the Beast King as a contracted beast. If the royal family had known, there's no way they'd place it as a reward. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. Just one growl from Baisher's throat could stop the entire demonic beast tide. Baisher's power was obvious. If the royal family knew now, she was afraid that their intestines would turn green from regret. Bei Chen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's uncaring appearance and couldn't help but to emphasize, you can't let anyone else know about Baisher's identity. If it gets known, others will definitely get jealous. Then at that point, you'll be in danger. The ordinary man was innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. With Bailey Hongzhuang's current strength, she still wasn't strong enough to protect Baisher. Seeing Bei Chen's earnest appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand. Then what do you plan to do? Bei Chen frowned slightly. Baisher was Bailey Hongzhuang's pet and usually followed her around. It was impossible to just have him stay at home all the time, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting smile. I have an idea. Bei Chen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously, but Bailey Hongzhuang always had a lot of unusual methods. Since she said so, she probably already thought up of a solution. Chapter 345. After leaving, I also inquired a bit about the Lan family's situation. Bei Chen said slowly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened, pure charming face full of seriousness. How was it? That piece of jade was the only proof of her identity. After knowing that she wasn't Bailey Zhentian's daughter by birth, she had always worn that piece of jade around her neck. Towards her own origins, she also wanted to understand. Bei Chen pursed his thin lips, a heaviness filling his handsome eyes. The Lan family had put a very tight lid on the situation. I sent people to look into it, but the people of the Lan family had their lips sealed when it came to this matter. However, I was still able to confirm the matter of Lan Yunxiao turning against the Lan family. And this was exactly 15 years ago. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. The timing coincides. Plus there was also the matter of the jade piece. If there were no other unexpected events, this might be the truth of her origins. Did you look into the reason why Lan Yunxiao and the family turned against each other and became enemies? Bailey Hongzhuang had some doubts since Lan Yunxiao was the most favored son of the head of the Lan family as well as the most likely candidate to be the successor of the Lan family. And so, Lan Yunxiao had no reason to become enemies with his own family. Bei Chen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated gaze in his eyes. On this matter, I've also inquired into it. The reason Lan Yunxiao became enemies with the family, I'm afraid, that it was because of you. Bailey Hongzhuang was taken aback. Because of me? Bei Chen nodded. That's right. The knowledge of this matter was hidden very well. I've tried inquiring about it numerous times, but still only managed to learn bits and pieces. However, when these were gathered and put together, I got a general understanding of the truth. Do you remember about your shattered dantian? Waves appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes as focused. So you mean that the reason why Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family had a falling out was due to my shattered dantian? Could it be that I wasn't born with a shattered dantian? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sharpened as that idea appeared inside her heart. She had always believed that she was born with a shattered dantian. All along, she had thought that her shattered dantian was due to congenital complications. After all, the world is vast and one could find all sorts of unique situations. Though chances of being born with a shattered dantian was low, it was not zero. But if this was all due to human action, then the pain and suffering of the Bailey Hongzhuang from before was all due to the other party. This possibility is great. Di Bei Chen's expression sank slightly, a deep and unfathomable look on his face. It was due to this that Lan Yunxiao left the Lan family with his wife and daughter. Then following that reasoning, the person who shattered my dantian is a member of the Lan family? How smart was Bailey Hongzhuang? Even though Di Bei Chen didn't clearly state it, just one glance was enough to reason out the general picture of the situation. If this was the truth, then she had unknowingly taken on the burden of hatred from the original owner of this body. At the time, I was only a child. How cruel was the other party to actually raise his hand against a child? A child still in the cradle had her dantian forcibly shattered by another. How painful would it have been? Exactly how deep was the other resentment to actually be cruel to this point? In regards to this matter, I have yet to look into it. After this is the top secret information about the Lan family. However, I will try inquiring again. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her entire appearance was beautiful like a cicada. With Lan Yunxiao's position in the Lan family, to have thoughts of harming her means that the other party was definitely not low in the Lan family hierarchy. Moreover, to a cultivation family like the Lan family, it was nothing less than a huge embarrassment that a child still in the cradle was a victim of such treachery. She was only afraid that every member of the Lan family was silent on this matter, afraid to say even a word. Chapter 346. At that time, the Lan family and Lan Yunxiao were having a dispute about becoming the family head. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed, an astute light flitting by. As the family head in her past life, she was by no means a stranger to the methods used within the family. Who knew how many victims were sacrificed for the family head's seat? Luckily for her, she had managed to use her strength to terrorize everybody so nobody would dare to start anything. But many similar situations could be seen in other families. All kinds of despicable, filthy means were used. Unless it was already decided, every birth of a new family head was bound to be filled with bloodshed. Di Bei Chen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. She really had a clever mind, already understanding without him needing to be so wordy. Right, Lan Yunxiao's big brother Lan Jingquan. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a cold smile. At this point, she pretty much already knew who was acting behind the scenes. Right now, Lan Jingquan is already the Lan family head. His daughter, Lan Qingyan, is a well-known genius, and is a very famous figure in Xingxian continent. It's said that Lan Qingyan's talent was beyond ordinary geniuses, and that her cultivation was always impressive. These past few years, her reputation had gotten even more resounding. Lan Qingyan was thought highly of by the entire Lan family, and that someday, it was highly possible that she'd become the first female family head. It seems that Lan Qingyan's skills really aren't ordinary. Bailey Hongzhuang concealed the sharp light in her eyes. To be expected to become the Lan family's first female family head must mean that she definitely has the ability to. Di Bei Chen nodded slightly. Lan Qingyan really is remarkable, but she almost always cultivated alone. I also never saw her before. It's no wonder then that Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family became enemies and was chased to death. The other party was really a powerful figure. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, a bone-chillingly cold light appearing in her eyes. Before, she had no idea about her background. Now that she knew about the Lan family's unfair treatments towards her parents and finally chased to death, the bloodlust in her heart was almost boiling. she could almost imagine Lan Yunxiao as the respected family head. If had let bygones be bygones, he would have still been the Lan family head. A child, rather than keeping a waist like her, he could just have a new one. But, Lan Yunxiao didn't. For her, he had become enemies with the Lan family and abandoned everything: glory, splendor, wealth, and rank just to get justice for his daughter. Even though Lan Yunxiao was powerful, how could he and her mother, two people, stand up against the entire Lan family? Bailey Hongzhuang already marked down the big Lan family as her enemy. Even though she was also a part of the Lan family, since the Lan family was so unfair towards her, she already decided to break all ties with them. Bei Chen watched as Bailey Hongzhuang's face changed. Sensing the condensing bloodlust surrounding her, his eyes were filled with astonishment. Bloodlust was a very mysterious thing, linked with a cultivator's strength. The stronger the cultivator and the more bloodshed they've experienced, the stronger their bloodlust. But such a strong bloodlust was far beyond what somebody at Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation level should have. What had Bailey Hongzhuang gone through? Even he probably wouldn't been able to emit such terrifying bloodlust. Thinking how Bailey Hongzhuang's experiences were even worse than his, a trace of pity emerged in Bei Chen's heart. Chapter 347. Such an experience, I'm afraid that nobody would be able to stay calm after hearing about it. If her parents died just like that, then Bailey Hongzhuang definitely would be burdened with a deep blood feud. As soon as he thought of that enormous Lan family, Bei Chen's mood also turned heavier. Can you investigate whether or not my parents are alive? Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was normally calm and collected, at this moment she was inevitably nervous. She had never met her parents, but she could feel the love of her parents. She just wished that her parents were still living in this world, so that someday they might be able to have a reunion. Otherwise, no matter how big the Lan family is, she would completely destroy this family clan that destroyed her family. At that time, after your parents left the Lan family, there was no contact from them. I've already investigated, but at the moment, there has been no information. Bei Chen looked worryingly at Bailey Hongzhuang, afraid that she'd be obsessed over revenge. After all, put anyone else in her place and they would all care deeply about this. Thus he was almost certain that after learning about her identity, Bailey Hongzhuang would go investigating about her parents. Unfortunately, when the event happened in the Lan family, they had concealed it quite well, not to mention that her parents had been running from assassins the whole way. The clues were very well concealed. Even if he sent out many of his men to investigate, it would be the same as before, he wouldn't have been able to get any useful information. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change. The outcome wasn't out of her expectations. Her parents were chased by assassins at the time, so they passed her to Qin Yayun, who adopted her. And when she got her, she was covered in blood. Just knowing that, one can see how bitter their circumstances at the time was. Since they were being chased, Lan Yunxiao must have used all his strength to hide their tracks. For Bei Chen to investigate now, naturally it would be difficult to unearth anything. However, she was certain, if her parents were still alive, they would definitely come back and find her. From the moment they put their lives on the line so they would guarantee her safety, she could see how deep their love for her was. If they haven't returned, then it was very likely that the situation was disastrous. Thinking up to here, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sunk. If they had really died, she would bury the Lan family to accompany her parents in their grave. Bei Chen put his hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, and lightly patted her back. Wife, we'll take this step by step. We'll definitely find out what happened back then. Feeling the concern in Bei Chen's heart, the coldness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes diminished a bit. Glancing over at Bei Chen, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark, yet bright eyes flashed for a moment. In the beginning, she was only asking of him a request, yet Bei Chen had already done so much for her. When Bei Chen returned, he probably had many things to take care of, but he still left behind Blackwood to safeguard her and sent men to investigate. Not only that, he even helped look for the whereabouts of her parents. He was not only considerate, he also went beyond her expectations. There was words in her mind that she had difficulty speaking. Bailey Hongzhuang was always a person who, if others helped her, she'd repay them many times over. Bewitching treating her like this, she would remember all of this in her heart. Thank you for helping me look for all this information. Her black eyes flickered with emotion, her voice sincere. This period of time has been difficult for you. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer as sad, Bewitching also let out a sigh. After hearing about this information, he was aware of the revenge burdened on Bailey Hongzhuang's back. Chapter 348. Even in such a place as Fengbo country, it is clear why the Lan family is considered important. In front of the Lan family, even the entire Fengbo country can be easily annihilated. The two cannot be compared. The Lan family in the Sanxian mainland has been in existence for many years with many deep-rooted wrongs. Things could get complicated. To go against the entire Lan family with one person's strength alone was an impossible feat to accomplish. In the Xingxian continent, new forces will rise every day while the old forces die out. However, when certain forces grow too powerful, they will be extremely hard to destroy. Because each group had a long lineage, they became extremely stable over time. As the saying goes, the body of a starving camel is larger than a living horse. When they reach a certain level, there are only short-term silences even when they fall into difficulty. Only after a while can they slowly get back up. He did not know if Bailey Hongzhuang knew of the power that the Lan family holds and was worried that after his introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang would fall into a trap. If Bailey Hongzhuang fears the Lan family, and doesn't make a move, it is not what he wants to see. But Bailey Hongzhuang had set her heart for revenge. Ever since then, she has not been happy, which is also not what he wishes to see. Luckily Bailey Hongzhuang is not as he had imagined. She is truly an unusual woman. I only want you to be happy. Bewitching says in a gentle and sincere tone. Bailey Hongzhuang was silent. Usually, she would not show her emotions on her face. I understand. One day I will find out the truth. The Lan family will be destroyed and I will pay them back by 100-folds. The dark pools flashes an extremely cold aura, hidden devour all the power. A kind of unspeakable arrogance domineering burst forth from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. She has never cared for the power of family held, nor does she have the word fear in her dictionary. She only knows that people can decide their own fate. People only live once in their lifetime, to do what they want. Embarking on the road of cultivation is also a way to a fulfilling life. If they give up on revenge because of fear, then how can they even talk about martial arts? She, Bailey Hongzhuang, does not fear the heavens or the earth. Whatever she wishes, she will put her heart to it until it is accomplished. Bewitching noticed a flame flash in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, feeling a deep shock in his heart. He never knew that, inside Bailey Hongzhuang's body, there was such a powerful soul. From that pair of firm and confident eyes, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's confidence and persistence. He once heard Master say, what cultivators need the most is a fearless state of mind. However, most cultivators do not have it. Because Master saw that he did not fear the heavens and earth, the rules were broken and he accepted as a disciple. Not only that, his wife also has that kind of personality. The way it is, they are truly a fated pair. What you are saying is correct. What kind of power is the head of the Lan family? It is up to a person. As long as we have faith, anything is possible. Bewitching had an enchanting bloodthirsty aura, one that belongs to a domineering ruler. Those pair of eyes had a confident and bright shine to it. People lived a lifetime for themselves, this had the most purpose. Hearing what Bewitching said, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes showed a touch of surprise. She showed a touch of clear understanding while revealing an enchanting smile. It seems that their thoughts are in sync. Chapter 349. You don't think that I'm being unrealistic? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes raised, a smile on her clear and enchanting face. Bewitching's lips curved into a bewitching smile as he held Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. Whatever wife wants to do, I as the husband will naturally accompany you. Besides, it might be unrealistic for other people, but not necessarily for us. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile grew wider as she heard Bewitching's words. Today she found that they were the same type of people. They didn't know what was known as fear. Little White, do you think what I think Master and Bewitching look like? Little Black asked. Little White nodded his head in agreement. No wonder the two are such a good couple, they're both evildoers. For others, choosing to do such a thing might be too crazy. But no matter if it was Master or Bewitching, both of them had already thought through the possibilities before deciding. It was naturally needless to talk about Master. As the family head in her past life, she naturally knew how difficult it was to destroy an influential family. Precisely because she understood an influential family so well, she also knew the conditions to destroy one. There was never a power that could never fall, it just depended on when another power that could destroy it appeared. Baishir, snuggling in Bailey Honghang's embrace, raised his head to look at the two and had no choice but to admit that the two of them really were like evildoers. The two people fearing nothing in heaven and earth are together. This time, the Lon family is really out of luck. In that case, what does wife want to do next? Bewitching smiled and asked gently. Bailey Honghang shrugged her shoulders. Food needs to be eaten bite by bite, roads need to be walked step by step. My strength is nothing compared to the Lon family right now, so naturally I need to first cultivate and improve my strength. Once I have the strength, I'll go to the Lon family. She already waited 15 years, so she naturally didn't care about waiting a bit more. Wifey's decision is good. Bewitching nodded smilingly. This was a long-term goal, and right now, taking every step well was the most important thing. Don't worry, I'll help you ask around on news about the Lon family. Then I'll be troubling you. Between us, there's no need to thank each other. Bewitching blew at Bailey Honghang's ear, his voice soft and filled with charm. Bailey Hongzhuang could only feel her neck warm as her ear trembled before she immediately took 2 steps back. After all, such an appearance was truly too ambiguous. Bewitching looked at Bailey Honghang's red ears, the smile in his eyes deepening. His wifey was really too cute. Bailey Honghang had the long-term goal of destroying the Lon family, and he had the long-term goal of capturing her heart. His wife won't give up, and he wouldn't give up either. Bewitching's arrival to Azure Water School raised a huge upsurge, but after discovering Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang's relationship, the craze slowly started to calm down. The female students who had given up hope for Dongfang Yu rekindled their spirit. Since Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were a couple, that meant Dongfang Yu was still their Prince Charming. For a while, Dongfang Yu's popularity increased again, becoming the target of love for many female students. In a flash, 3 days had already passed and it was time for Bailey Honghang's pill auction. Chapter 350. This auction was the one most highly anticipated by the Azure Water School students. The 3-channel opening pills were not going to be sold to outsiders, all of them would be auctioned off to the students within the school. Just because of this, the students felt more favorable towards Bailey Hongzhuang. If it were someone else, they would likely only go after more benefits for themselves, not leaving the channel opening pill for their classmates at all. Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early. Soon after she would have to begin the auction. The students coming would not be a few. She also had to make preparations. At the same time Bailey Hongzhuang opened her door, Bewitching's door also opened. Thus, just as Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door, she saw Bewitching's smiling face, as bright as the shining sun. Wifey, did you dream about me yesterday? Bewitching's charming eyes blinked, an intimate smile on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang cast a sidelong glance at Bewitching, lips curved into an enchantingly wicked smile. I dreamed about a bear yesterday. I wonder if that was you. Pfft. Xia Jiqing had just entered the special enrollment student dormitory when she heard Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's conversation and couldn't help but cough out a laugh. The sudden laughter caused both Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching to turn their heads towards the source, seeing Xia Jiqing slowly making her way over, clad in a purple-colored light muslin dress. Hongzhuang, the two of you, husband and wife, are really interesting. The laughter lingered on Xia Jiqing's face. I wasn't intentionally eavesdropping on your conversation. Bailey Hongzhuang gave a sort of helpless look towards Xia Jiqing and also gave a fierce glare at Bei Chen. Bei Chen shrugged, looking innocent and pure. He also didn't know that Xia Jiqing would appear at this time. Jiqing, why did you come over so early? Bailey Hongzhuang's light ethereally beautiful voice was full of joy, lips curved into a smile as splendid as a cherry blossom. Xia Jiqing shook her head, a slightly exaggerated expression on her face. I haven't come early at all. There are already many students waiting outside of your dormitory. Today, I originally planned to come a bit later. However, my roommate woke up really early and even the classmates next door had already left. I also got up. Just now, I had to force my way through the crowd just to get here to your special enrollment student dormitory. Xia Jiqing's voice was full helplessness. This scene was really way beyond her expectations. She almost can imagine that today's auction will definitely be unusually explosive. Have many people already gathered outside now? Bailey Hongzhuang arched her eyebrow. Xia Jiqing continuously nodded. It isn't just many people. It's more like a sea of people. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. It was still a ways from the time of the auction and the reason she woke up early was to have time to prepare. She never would have thought that the students would come even earlier than she did. This showed how highly attractive the channel opening pill was to them. Kacha, the sound of a door opening was heard. Hearing Xia Jiqing's voice, the seriously injured Bai Junyu also came out. Jiqing, you came, Bai Junyu said smiling. Xia Jiqing looked at Bai Junyu's improved but still pale face, smilingly saying, you're recovering quite well. Hee, it's all due to Hongzhuang. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I would have already lost my life. Bai Junyu looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang, gratefulness in his eyes. From the moment he was bitten by that demonic beast, he had already fallen into despair, afraid that he would be able to keep his right hand and never being able to become an outstanding cultivator in the future. He didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang would turn out to be a famous doctor, not only helping him recover quickly, but also leaving no future impairments on his right hand. Chapter 351 Big favors of kindness didn't need to be thanked. He deeply stored this grace in his heart. His life was saved by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, it's your own fortune to recover so quickly. In a few days, it should be completely healed. These days, Bai Junyu had been feeling rather bored staying in his room. Since everybody else had came out, he wanted to come out to have some fun as well. Bai Junyu nodded with a smile on his face, I'm looking forward to recovering from this injury soon, it's really been pretty boring lately. Xia Jiqing shot Bai Junyu a glance as he spoke in that kind of manner. It was definitely boring, not speaking to anybody for the whole day. While people were conversing with one another, Dong Fangyu, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qingyue came down from the upstairs. Good morning, everybody. Lu Qingyue greeted with a bright and beautiful smile, we wanted to come out earlier, but we didn't expect you all to have already come here. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled indifferently as she nodded, it wasn't just us either, the students from the auction also came rather early. Oh? Lu Qingyue raised her eyebrows, surprised, has the auction not started yet? The channel opening pill is too enticing of an item for us cultivators. Bai Junyu laughed, these days, I've heard that the students are looking everywhere in search of treasures, all for the auction today. Xia Jiman inspected Lu Qingyue. She hadn't thought Lu Qingyue would always be so cheerful. She wasn't very fond of Lu Qingyue. She was never interested in those kinds of weak, delicate-mannered women. Plus, whenever she saw Lu Qingyue and Hongzhuang together, her heart always had a bad feeling and wariness towards Lu Qingyue. But today, it seemed to have somewhat dissipated. Why was that? Xia Jiman frowned as she thought about why she was always wary towards Lu Qingyue. Dong Fangyu watched Bailey Hongzhuang and Bei Chen stood together, his eyes darkening again. But his eyes soon restored their usual bright and gentle gaze, since we're all ready, it's better to go have a look now. That'd be good, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, dimples appearing on her face as she spoke, shall we go? Bewitching seemed relaxed as he followed behind Bailey Hongzhuang out the dorm room, his eyes occasionally landing on Dongfang Yu's body. Dongfang Yu's quick change of expressions didn't escape his eye. Such a face wasn't just sadness or loneliness. As a man, he was clear about the meaning behind such an expression. It seems Dongfang Yu's feelings were deeper than he had thought. Luckily Dongfang Yu wasn't as blunt about his own feelings as he was, and that his wife was very dense when it comes to emotions. Bewitching felt a tiny bit glad. Sometimes it seems that her slowness wasn't always a bad thing. He Mu was very distressed. Before, he had always been the young master's hidden guard. After the young master left, he had been put in charge of Miss Bailey's safety. Now that the young master returned, he naturally should have been his personal hidden guard. But yesterday, the young master told him that he should stay hidden as a guard and not always follow at his side. He Mu's mind was filled with thoughts. What did he do wrong? Could it be that his young master still didn't forgive his mistake of failing to protect Miss Bailey? Chapter 352. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived outside the dormitory, they were all stunned at the ocean of people outside the door. Bai Junyu's opened his mouth, his handsome face filled with astonishment. Isn't this too many people? Besides the new student examinations, he had never seen so many students gathered up at one place. Xia Jiman was also speechless. When she had came, there were no people, but now, only a short time had passed and there were already so much more people. Looking at the steady stream of students still coming at the far back, it seems like the auction will really have a lot of people attending. Dongfang Yu had a smile on his face, a faint trace of ridicule on his countenance. Hongzhuang, this auction of yours is really too big. The entire special enrollment student dormitory gives up. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. Her idea had accidentally blocked the special enrollment students' dormitory. At that time, she hadn't thought so many students would come. If more people kept on coming, there wouldn't be enough space to accommodate them all. Lu Qingyue stared blankly at the scene in front of her and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, unable to control the trace of envy appearing in her eyes. As a pill master, she knew the significance of an extinct pill very well. Before Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, she was Azure Water City's most watched pill master talent. And now, not only was Bailey Hongzhuang a second-grade pill master, she was even a famous doctor in the field of healing, the godly doctor. She was even younger than herself, yet held extinct pill recipes. As the vice principal's disciple, she also naturally held some pill recipes. But those were all common, normal pill recipes, simply incapable of being compared with those extinct, long-lost pill recipes. Originally she had thought that her pill refining talents were already far beyond other peers her age, but since the arrival of Bailey Hongzhuang, she seemed to be completely pulled down off of her altar. Her heart couldn't help but feel a little lonesome. Bewitching's eyes glowed with appreciation and pride. His wife was truly special, whatever she did would attract everybody's attention. More and more people are coming. I'm afraid that there won't be enough space to hold an auction here. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly as she looked around to see even more students approaching. Personally, I think that it'd be a lot better to host the auction at the plaza. Dongfang Yu's smile was bright. There's a high platform over there and a lot of space. You can conduct the auction on the platform and we can help you with whatever's convenient. Hearing Dongfang Yu's suggestion, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. We can use the morning assembly plaza. The morning assembly plaza was generally only used when the school wanted to make important announcements. Bailey Hongzhuang knew that it'd be the best place to conduct the auction, but was also worried that they wouldn't be allowed to. Dongfang Yu waved his hand, a bright and charming smile still on his face. It doesn't matter, that plaza's affairs had already been given to me. Seeing Dongfang Yu's confident appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also curved into a smile. Then I'll be troubling you. Dongfang Yu nodded before turning to Gong Shaoqing. Shaoqing, I'll be temporarily leaving this to you. I'm going to go talk to the vice principal. Okay. Gong Shaoqing answered heavily. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with gratitude. No matter if it was Dongfang Yu or Gong Xiaoqing, since she had arrived at Azure Water School, they've both helped her a lot. With their reputation within Azure Water School, as long as one of them was here, nobody would dare to cause chaos. Chapter 353. After the group of students outside the dormitory saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others come out, fiery looks of anticipation started appearing in their eyes. After Bailey Hongzhuang announced the auctioning of the channel opening pills, all of them looked forward to today. Searching all corners for demonic beast crystals, herbs, and such things like precious treasures. All of that was for today. To be able to successfully bring the channel opening pill back with them. Even though these things were highly valuable, they still couldn't compare to the channel opening pill. After all, these were things that could be obtained anywhere and at any time. On the other hand, you can't get the opportunity to raise your cultivation anytime. Usually, there was no small amount of competition with cultivating at the Azure Water School. If they could even slightly increase the speed of their cultivation, then, in the long run, there would be double the benefits. Junior Sister Bailey, when will the auction start? One guy couldn't wait any longer and asked. The special enrollment dormitory certainly wasn't small. However, with all the students gathered here, this feeling of them constantly squeezing forward was rather uncomfortable. Almost everyone has already gathered here. How about we start it now? That's right, let's start the auction now. Following that guy's words, everyone else also echoed the same sentiments. In the entire Azure Water School, almost no one chose to give up on the auction of the channel opening pill. At this moment, if the auction starts earlier, they would also have a little less competition. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips held a thin, beautiful smile. She lifted her hands slightly, indicating for everyone to quiet down. Though she was faced with so many students at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was still perfectly composed, not even showed the slightest hint of nervousness. The number of students attending the auction today has greatly exceeded my expectations. With everyone arriving so early and gathering in such a crowded place, I feel very uncomfortable about it. After Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, the originally noisy surroundings miraculously quieted down. Everyone's gazes started centering on Bailey Hongzhuang, carefully listening to her words. Di Bei Chen and the others eyed Bailey Hongzhuang. She seems to possess a kind of power that calms people. Just a random gesture, a casual word, would be enough to attract everyone's attention. This was a very special kind of ability. This kind of ability was also called leadership. It was not something that anyone could have. Everyone nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang had said what they thought in their hearts. Not only did Bailey Hongzhuang not expect there to be so many students coming, even they themselves didn't think of it. They also heard that many students that have gone out have quickly returned when they heard this piece of news. Even many students in closed-door cultivation have ended their seclusion. It was precisely because of this that the number of students attending the auction was so high. Even when the principal called for a morning assembly, there weren't this many people, thus, I've decided to change the auction venue to the morning assembly plaza. I have to trouble everyone to move there. Bailey Hongzhuang's face held a bit of regret. Everyone hurried here so early, yet now they had to move again. Inevitably there would be some resentment. Yet this was the only way for the following auction to proceed smoothly. However, after everyone heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they didn't complain. Instead, one by one, they turned and headed towards the morning assembly plaza. Compared to blocking the entrance to the special enrollment dormitory, it was obvious that the morning assembly plaza was much more comfortable. Moreover, everyone also understood in their hearts that it was not yet the time Bailey Hongzhuang said the auction would start. It was just that they were impatient and came too early. Looking at the crowd's actions, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened by a few degrees. The students of the Azure Water School were indeed dragons and phoenixes amongst men, their quality was also extremely high. Chapter 354. As the crowd went to the morning assembly plaza, Bailey Hongzhuang and others began to move out as well. Bai Junyu's wound wasn't fully healed, so he originally should have stayed in his room to prevent his injury from getting any worse. But nobody would want to miss out on such a lively scene and stay at home, so he immediately went to the auction with Xia Jiqing. Although Xia Jiqing wasn't ever interested in Bai Junyu's chatter, since he was an injured man, her attitude towards him was a little bit nicer. By the time Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the morning assembly plaza, Dong Fangyu was already there waiting for them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled when she saw Dong Fangyu. Senior Dong Fang, did the vice principal agree? Dong Fangyu nodded. The vice principal is always easy to deal with and naturally didn't have a problem. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved, directly jumping onto the high platform. Bei Chen and the others also jumped on. Bailey Hongzhuang was in the middle and they stood on both sides beside her. Below the platform, the students had already raised their heads in anticipation, eager for the auction to quickly begin. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the time and announced, "It's time for the auction to begin." Hearing this, everybody in the audience cheered. They were all waiting for the auction. Azure Water School's morning assembly plaza was facing the school's gate. Outside the entrance, many cultivators could be seen stretching their necks to see what was happening inside. Although they truly wanted the channel opening pill, because Bailey Hongzhuang made it so only Azure Water School students could bid for it, they had no chance at all to fight for it. But even knowing they had no chance, they still didn't want to miss out on such a lively event. When the auction was over, they could find whoever managed to get the channel opening pill and then perhaps, they'd be able to get an opportunity. I believe that everybody knows how the auction will be conducted this time. Sunlight shone on Bailey Hongzhuang's body as her beautiful face glowed with confidence. It was an unforgettable sight. Everybody stared at Bailey Hongzhuang on the stage. Every movement of hers was filled with grace worthy of admiration. This auction, because it's held within our school and we're all cultivators, we won't be using gold coins to bid. We'll be bidding with the same prices, but everybody must use either demonic beast crystals, pill ingredients, or cultivation-related treasures. Everybody nodded. They've all already heard about the requirements and collected treasures everywhere to use for the auction. Xia Jiqing frowned, confused. I know how the auction works, but the things everyone takes out will be different. It's hard to convert an item's value into gold coins, so how will that work? Bai Junyu shook his head, embarrassed. He also didn't understand. He had only seen auctions where gold coins were used to bid and had never experienced this kind of auction. Lu Qinyue's eyes were also confused. This. How do you judge this? Dongfang, can you ask if Bailey Hongzhuang needs help with anything? Gong Shaoqing asked slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang's way of conducting the auction was really too strange, so a lot of problems would probably arise along the way. Bei Chen nodded slightly, about to ask when Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly echoed again. Chapter 355. I believe that everybody knows this auction will be a bit complicated, so I've thought of a way to make this a bit simpler. Everybody looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously when they heard her speak. They had no idea what the way Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned was. I've prepared some paper and pen. We can directly write the item we want to bid with and our name on the paper. From there, I will choose the 3 most personally regarded highest bids and those 3 will get the channel opening pills. What does everybody think? Bailey Hongzhuang's face had a smile on it. This was the simplest way she could think of to conduct the auction. Otherwise, who knew when the auction would finish today? Everybody's eyes lit up as they listened to Bailey Hongzhuang. This really was the best way. Like this, all the steps would be simplified and you wouldn't need to speak to bid, so no conflicts would arise from students studying at the same school. I didn't expect Hongzhuang to be so smart. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with admiration. This was truly bamboo splitting when it meets the knife, easily solving a difficult problem. Bai Junyu nodded with approval. This is the first time I've heard of such a way. Simplifying it and also reducing hidden malice during bids, really clever. The hint of anxiety in Dong Fangyu's brows already disappeared, replaced by an appreciative smile. It looks like we were just too worried. Gong Shaoqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be called a stupid woman at all. It really made others have no choice but to sigh in admiration, and even further proved that holding this auction was not solely for her own personal benefits. The way people used bids in auctions always maximized profits, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't put that as her first priority. From this, it was clear that her first and most foremost goal was to help Azure Water School's students. Bei Chen's face was indifferent as he stood off to the side, his deep, tempting eyes glowing with pride and approval. His wife was naturally extremely intelligent. This way of auctioning even had him exclaiming in admiration. After breaking away from the status of the general household's second miss, she was already a very respectable figure. Now nobody could relate her as the general's household's second miss anymore, and since then, she's only been shining brighter and brighter. Seeing everybody nod in the audience without any disapproval, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile grew a bit wider. She turned to look at Xia Jiqing beside her, "I'll me troubling everyone to help me distribute the pen and paper." Xia Jiqing immediately agreed, "Give it to me." Bei Chen, Dongfang Yu, and the others also stepped forward. Hongzhuang asked them all, so naturally they'd complete it properly. The people watching outside Azure Water School couldn't help but show expressions of doubt. Isn't this an auction? So why haven't they started bidding and instead started to pick up pen and paper? Not so far away, the principal Ren Tianqiong and vice principal Huan Chuyu stood together to watch Morning Assembly Plaza. This Bailey Hongzhuang, not only is she strong, but she also has a good brain. Ren Tianqiong's eyes had a faint trace of admiration in them. As Azure Water School's principal, he had naturally seen no lack of great talents. But, very few students were as excellent as Bailey Hongzhuang. Huan Chuyu nodded in approval. Bailey Hongzhuang really is remarkable. In the future, she'll definitely be able to stir big waves in Xingxian continent. Chapter 356. Have you investigated Bailey Hongzhuang's background? Ren Tianqiong slowly asked, his sights still on the bidding students. I didn't investigate, but Lu Huayan and the others definitely should have. Huan Chuyu smiled lightly. After her background, she should have some kind of secret. A light of approval appeared in Ren Tianqiong's eyes. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, Bei Chen is also already very complicated. This year is really abnormal. Huan Chuyu's voice was filled with emotion. The demonic beast tide, a second-ranked pill master, new leaders, truly extraordinary. Hearing this, Ren Tianqiong's lips also curved into a small smile. As long as we know they're Azure Water School's students, that's enough. As Azure Water School's principals, their goal was to breed new talents. They didn't care for things like life's ambitions. Xia Jiqing handed out the pen and paper. The students in the auction were all very cooperative. But when Xia Jiqing saw who was taking the pen and paper this time, her face changed somewhat. Ling Jiasen, didn't you say Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pills were fake? Why did you still come here to bid then? Xia Jiqing's eyes were filled with disgust and disdain. She never liked this woman who was always looking for trouble with Hongzhuang. Did she come to the auction today just to make trouble? Ling Jiasen's face was somewhat embarrassed. She originally thought that with so much people attending, she only needed to disguise herself a little bit and nobody would notice. Besides, since it's bidding using pen and paper, she'd only need to use a fake name and Bailey Hongzhuang would have no idea. She didn't think that Xia Jiqing would recognize her while handing out the pen and paper. After being discovered, Ling Jiasen awkwardly raised her head and spoke, "This auction doesn't have any rules about who or who cannot bid, so why wouldn't I be able to join in?" Xia Jiqing laughed coldly, You really are shameless enough to. Ling Jiasen's face was stiff. This Xia Jiqing's words were even more vicious than Bailey Hongzhuang's, not leaving her with a single bit of face. You're saying so much nonsense, just give me the pen and paper. After shouting at Xia Jiqing, Ling Jiasen directly took a set of pen and paper from her hands. Xia Jiqing glanced at her coldly. Such a person was truly rare. After she was done distributing the pen and paper, Xia Jiqing returned to the platform. Hongzhuang, while I was handing out the sets, I saw Ling Jiasen. She also came to bid. No matter what, you shouldn't choose her. Xia Jiqing's lips twitched, her eyes filled with loathing. That woman never has good intentions. You can't give the channel opening pills to her easily. Seeing Xia Jimon's resentful appearance, Bailey Honghang lips curled into a graceful smile. It doesn't matter, I also saw her earlier. But I think that since she was running all over the place trying to make up for our bet's debt, I doubt she has a good enough treasure now to bid. Xia Jiqing's words made Bailey Honghang's mood a bit brighter. Although it was only a school auction, she still believed that the 3-channel opening pills should be able to fetch a high price. Bailey Honghang glanced at Ling Jiesin faintly. In the crowd, not only did she see Ling Jiesin, she had even seen Lu Jingquan and Pang Yunxiang as well. Chapter 357. Holding the pen and paper, Ling Jiesin felt somewhat proud. Since she'd met Bailey Hongzhuang, she had never lost so much face in her entire life. No matter what, she couldn't just swallow her resentment. Coincidentally, Yunyang had just returned yesterday. After talking it over, they made a decision. Dai Yunyang had already received letters from the general's household earlier and was furious upon learning Dai Jimon was killed by Bailey Honghang. He'll definitely avenge Jimon, daring to kill his sister. After Dai Yunyang returned, not only was his strength enchanted, even his body was strengthened. It just so happened that Bailey Hongzhuang was holding an auction, so after talking over their strategy, they decided to buy all 3-channel opening pills and spread rumors about how they were useless. So that way, Bailey Honghang would be completely discredited. At that point, they were sure that Bailey Honghang would be completely abandoned like a worn-out shoe. Her reputation would be destroyed for everybody to trample on. Then, wouldn't ruining Bailey Honghang be an easy job? Dai Yunyang decided to conceal news of him returning and gave the mission to Ling Jiesin, Lu Jingquan, and Pang Yunxiang. They had originally wanted to get a few followers to return with the channel opening pills, but they hadn't expected Bailey Hongzhuang to come up with such a way of conducting the auction. It saved them a lot of trouble. So, they just had to use a different name to bid. After Bailey Hongzhuang read their names, they could come out and Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have any way to oppose them. Ling Jiesin looked at Lu Jingquan not so far away and sign-led with her eyes. Lu Jingquan exposed a knowing smile. They've always been waiting to kill Bailey Honghang. Now that they've finally worked out a perfect plan, they must kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Pang Yunxiang was also very happy. Although helping Dai Yunyang ruin Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the goal in mind, he truly wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. But now, Dai Yunyang regarded him as important, so as long as this succeeded, he'll definitely get more chances to work with him in the future. A ruthless light flickered in his pitch-black pupils. He and Bailey Hongzhuang's fate together have already come to an end. After he was wounded at the cultivation pagoda, it took a very long time for him to recover, and he had always felt guilty for Chen Tianjing. This time, he'll definitely get revenge plus interest from Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baisher's fur. Today, he was abnormally excited. Thinking of the number of shiny demonic beast crystals it could get with the auction, Baisher's eyes were shining with greed. God, more demonic crystals and he would be crushed to death. The 2 black and white fluff balls were depressed. Master gave so much thought about Baisher's meals, compared to him, they were really treated a lot worse. Really unfair. Little Black sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's head, his face resentful, and couldn't help but pull on Bailey Hongzhuang's hair. Little White nodded, feeling the same. That little still-feeding baby is getting more and more arrogant, just acting cute all day long. Little Black sighed, directly pulling out a strand of hair. Don't tell me that we have to let that still-milking baby act so arrogantly in front of us? Little White pulled hard, taking another strand, but I also don't know what we can do. Bailey Hongzhuang's head suddenly ached. She wondered what the pain was when her face couldn't help but change somewhat. Chapter 358. What are you 2 guys doing on my head? A trace of helplessness appeared in Bailey Honghang's eyes. What did the 2 do for no reason? Suddenly hearing Bailey Honghang speak, Little Black and Little White couldn't help but be startled. Looking at the pulled-out strands of hair in their hands, their faces immediately changed. Nothing, nothing. Little Black immediately Delcard, immediately putting down the strand, hiding it. But, how could the hair be so sticky? It fell down off her head. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the fallen hair and narrowed her eyes. You two were pulling out my hair? Little Black and Little White shook their heads repeatedly. We didn't, we absolutely didn't. Then what's this on the ground? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed even more, a sharp light passing through them as she ignored the two's quibbling. The two fluffballs pointed fingers. We were going to say something, but we forgot. Just now, they thought that they were pulling up grass and that it came out very smoothly. Little Black repeatedly nodded, sticking up his hand. I swear we didn't do it on purpose. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. She'll never understand how the two fluffballs think. You guys don't have to grumble. How about I treat you two to a feast tonight? Hearing this, Little Black and Little White's eyes widened, turning as bright as stars. Drool dripped from their mouths. Really? Little White immediately asked. We can eat anything we want. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Right, eat anything you like. The thing the two fluffballs liked the most was to eat, but she usually ignored it in favor of prioritizing cultivation. Eating wasn't anything complex, so she had really wronged the two. I want to eat red braised pork. Little Black immediately voiced. I want to eat pig trotters. Little White followed, afraid that if he was a second late, the pig trotters would fly away. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. All right, one for each of you. Wow! So happy. Little Black and Little White raised their hands, their faces filled with happiness. They were completely immersed in their fantasy of braised pork and pig trotters. After settling the two, Bailey Hongzhuang looked around the crowd again. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened. In the crowd, she saw a very unexpected guest, Wei Meidai. That day in the Pill Masters Guild, she had made Wei Meidai lose a lot of face. But today, she unexpectedly came to bid at the auction. The most important thing though, was that only Azure Water School students could enter Azure Water School. Could it be that Wei Meidai was actually an Azure Water School student too? Right now, Wei Meidai felt very depressed. Although she was an Azure Water School student, she was usually refining pills and rarely came to the school. Before, when she heard Bailey Hongzhuang was auctioning off 3-channel opening pills in Azure Water School, although she was really interested, she decided that she wasn't going to go. The first time she faced Bailey Hongzhuang, she had lost too much face. Normally she was very creative, but in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she couldn't say anything. Even her master could only swallow his anger against Bailey Hongzhuang. She never wanted to see her again. But this morning, her master sent her to the school and told her that she needed to get the channel opening pills no matter what. Chapter 359. Wei Meidai never wanted to come to Azure Water School. Besides, wasn't going to bid for Bailey Hongzhuang's channel opening pills tantamount to directly bringing about her own humiliation? She was a rather prominent figure, so there was no way Bailey Hongzhuang would sell her the channel opening pills. If it was her, there was no way she'd sell the channel opening pills to Bailey Hongzhuang. But she couldn't disobey her master and could only brace herself to go. She also knew what her master planned to do. The reason why Bailey Hongzhuang had been able to be so arrogant towards her master was only because she held the long-lost channel opening pills in her hand. If her master could research and figure out the channel opening pills recipe, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have the qualifications to be so arrogant. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have any capital to be so unbridled in front of them. Thinking up to here, the depression on Wei Meidai's face disappeared. For a gentleman to take revenge, not even 10 years were too long. Even if she doesn't have any methods to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang now, there'll definitely be one someday. Before long, she'll definitely force Bailey Hongzhuang to kowtow to her for forgiveness. Wife, what are you watching? Bewitching noticed Bailey Hongzhuang watching the crowd interestedly and finally couldn't help but ask as he stood beside her. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled, a playful smile dancing at her lips. It's nothing, just a few enemies were attracted to the auction. It really is lively. Wifey has enemies in Azure Water School? Bewitching raised the tip of his brows, his eyes turning cold. Daring to make enemies of his wife, he won't let them have an easy time. Bailey Honghang smiled and shook her head. No, it's just some small trouble, nothing serious. As cultivators, there was never a lack of trouble. Because everyone were cultivators, there was naturally pride, arrogance along with strength. Thus, it was very normal for a small conflict to explode and magnify. The more talented the cultivator, the more conflicts there'd be. That was a commonly known fact. And she, Bailey Hongzhuang, never feared trouble. Daring to look for trouble with her, they need to prepare to pay the price. Bewitching saw Bailey Hongzhuang's confident appearance and set away his worries. Conflicts among cultivators were indeed very common. As long as it wasn't too complex, his wifey could solve it herself. Hongzhuang, Ling Jiasin and Lu Jingquan both came. They probably want to make some trouble, so you have to prepare yourself. Dong Fengyu frowned with a trace of worry as he warned her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a confident smile on her lips. Don't worry, I can deal with it. There was a saying, virtue was 1 foot tall, and the devil 10 foot, one must always be vigilant to stave off danger. She could almost already imagine Ling Jiasin and the others' plan. Since they wanted to do it like that, she'll follow their wishes and teach them a lesson, trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice to lure it. It wasn't long before the students all finished writing and placed their slip of paper into the box. Bailey Hongzhuang took the box and began to read through the papers. Not all the papers were the same, but most of them just contained things like points and demonic beast crystals. For Bailey Hongzhuang, the things she wanted most were points. After she went to the cultivation padoga, she understood how big of a benefit the energies of the padoga had on her cultivation, so she longed for points very much. She believed that after the auction was over, she'd be able to cultivate in there for a very long time.